This is the Simpit. I'm your host, Sean Cole, but the real star of today's show is the Viper Gaming Systems Python build PC gaming computer. Viper Gaming Systems is a small company that specializes in building gaming PC computers. In this new world that we live in, where everything's homogenized, everything's the same or even generic, Viper Gaming Systems is looking to stand out with a brand of computers built on performance. They're built by gamers, for gamers. So many of our viewers out there are playing on the Xbox One or the PlayStation 4, and it can be a daunting task making that leap to PC sim racing. But you've all heard about it. You all know that for the most part, you get a little more bang for your buck in the PC sim racing over consoles. But again, which computer to get, what graphics cards work best, compatibility issues, and needing to be a computer tech, part of the geek squad, just to deal with some of those issues. So these are the concerns of the common gamer, the kind of hurdles that prevent the gamers from joining us in the PC sim racing ranks. I remember many years ago, I bought so many store-bought computers that ended up underperforming. That is when I learned about Alienware, a company that built the coolest, fastest gaming computers that I had ever seen. I wanted so badly to cure my frustrations of poor computer gaming. However, they were very expensive when compared to other brands, and therefore I never got to own one. Then they got bought by Dell, and that kind of changed the image or the dream for me all along. Simultaneous to this, I've been building computers all of my life. I've probably built 30 or 40 computers in my day, and each time I do, I kind of cross my fingers. I kind of hope that I buy the right components, everything working together, getting all the software installed correctly, and hoping that there are no broken or dead on arrival parts. These are all problems I've had when taking the path of building my own computer. So that's when I contacted Viper Gaming Systems and asked them to recommend a good computer for gamers out there looking to get into PC sim racing with confidence. They immediately suggested their Python build and offered to send me one to test out. So let's take a look at this Python build, perfect for converting gamers into PC sim racers. The Python by Viper Gaming Systems is an Intel i3 6600K based computer. The Python model by Viper goes for $1,300 and is a gaming ready computer. It comes with 8 gigabytes of RAM or memory, a terabyte hard drive, a Blu-ray player, an MSI Z170 Gaming Pro Carbon motherboard, a Gigabyte GeForce 1060 GTX video card with 6 gigs of memory, an EVGA 850 watt power supply, and an extra USB card. This is all packed nicely into an all-metal case with blue lighting and a few cool Viper logos. The computer comes with Windows 10 installed, along with Steam ready to go and absolutely no bloatware or extra crap installed onto the system. I mentioned the cool case with the cool lighting. It's also got plenty of vents, plenty of fans for cooling. It's also got the front cover that allows you to keep things with that clean look inside. Now, I was first impressed with the Python build when I first got the box. Actually, it was the moment I first saw the box and its bold graphics on the side. But once inside, I immediately got an idea for the type of company the Viper was. The computer was nicely packed away in styrofoam, and a top box with extras like my manuals, extra adapters and plugs, and a letter from Viper thanking me for being a customer. When it comes to computers that I've bought from companies, I do have a few pet peeves, and these are part of the reasons why I started building my own computers in the first place. And the first one comes down to the way the computers are built themselves. When you look inside and you see a bird's nest, that's not great for airflow. I want to see nicely routed cables out of the way of the fans, allowing for that air to go in and out of the case. When I look at the Python computer, check. It was built with very nice routing and care and concern about making the inside look as good as the outside. And the next pet peeve is really inadequate cooling to begin with. Many computers post their specs, then you get them home and you run them and it does just fine, but then you put them under the taxing conditions of sim racing and they start to heat up because they don't have enough airflow and they start to underperform. With the Python build, check. It actually has plenty of fans, and they are placed in good positions, creating front to back and front to side airflow. This should keep that GTX video card running at proper temperatures. And my next pet peeve is actually computers, or I should say the cases themselves, that lack any expression or style. Once again, with the Python build, check. It's got beautiful blue lighting, see-through side case, and name brand parts inside. My next pet peeve is sort of a trend I'm seeing in computers today, and that's not even coming with a DVD or Blu-ray player. I mean, I still want to be able to play old games or watch movies on my computer. My next and last pet peeve is you buy a new computer, you get it home, you're so excited, and then you find out that it doesn't have enough USBs. I gotta tell you, the guys at Viper Gaming Systems, they must have the same pet peeve because they installed an extra USB card. This thing actually has 12 USBs, which should be more than enough even for the most complicated sim rigs out there. Now, one more thing before we get this on track and start testing it out. I remember back in 1998, my brother had a Mustang Cobra. When you lifted the hood of the car, there was a badge or a plaque on the engine showing the two guys who built that engine. And I have to tell you, that went a long way for me in respect to that car, a certain pride of workmanship behind the people who built the engine in particular. Well, when you look inside the Python case, you're going to find a similar badge. You're going to find the signature, the person who built the computer, showing that same kind of pride of workmanship. And once again, that goes a long way with me. Now, if you're buying a computer like this, you're buying a computer built for performance. But despite being a high-end computer, it's still based on an i3 chipset. And I think that could be a good option for those switching over from consoles to PC gaming, or for those updating on a very strict, what do I really need kind of budget. Now, with that in mind, I did all my testing on a single screen. It was actually a TV, not a monitor, similar to what most gamers would actually be using when converting over from consoles to PC racing. After plugging in all of my peripherals, I was underway and seeing what the Python build could do under some heavy loads. I started off with iRacing and allowed the sim to auto-configure the graphics. At this level, I drove a handful of different situations, with other cars on the tracks adding to the load. I was able to get astonishingly high frame rates of 260 to well over 400. And that allowed me to immediately start pushing the settings higher until I got to the maximum on everything in iRacing. Even during a full race grid, I never saw numbers lower than 160, and I even saw frame rates as high as 230, again with the graphics maxed out and a full grid of cars. Race after race, the computer came through and exceeded my expectations of it. Now, in the case of iRacing, it's known for putting a lot of load on the chipset, or the i3, than compared to the graphics card, the GTX 1060 graphics card. But how would the Python handle if I switched over something a little more graphic intensive, like Assetto Corsa? I got brave this time and went right to maxed out settings and a full grid of cars. And again, this little i3 1060 equipped machine overachieved and pushed out phenomenal frame rates. Even with that scenario, I was seeing frame rates ranging from 130 and as high as 165 on a normal basis. I once again tried a handful of different cars and tracks just to make sure this wasn't a fluke. But time and time again, it came through at 130 to 165 frames without glitches or any kind of problems at all. Next up is Project Cars, and with the settings set to maximum, this really pushes your computer quite hard. They have a lot of extra visual effects, like the vapors, the gas vapors off the tailpipes of the car, the intense sun rays, and the changing skylines. Once again, being bold, I had gone right to maximum settings and a full grid of cars. And the Viper Gaming Systems Python stood proud and delivered frame rates between 59 and 102. R-Factor 2 also performed very well when put at maximum graphics and running a full grid of cars. Even with everything set to max, the Python came through once again with frame rates ranging between 75 and 180 per second, depending on the track and mod used. And from there, it was on to F1 2016, where I started things off in maximum graphics once again. Or in the case of F1, the graphics settings of Ultra. With things turned to the max, the Python performed fairly well with a low end of 50 frames at the start and up to 80 frames once the race was up and running and stretched out a little bit. I really wanted to see a number higher than 50 for race starts, so I dropped the graphics down to medium level and immediately saw frames jump up to 70 at the race start and about 100 while running. By the end of my testing, I was really surprised by what this little machine could do. It definitely benefited from the optimization and the selection of parts by the guys at Viper Gaming Systems. Now, when I first started doing this review, I thought this is going to be a great computer for single monitor applications. But when it performed that well in every sim, I thought, well, what if I did plug 3 monitors into it? How would it hold up? The 1060 video card, it has the outputs for it. In the case of this card, I actually had to use the DVI, an HDMI, and a DisplayPort to plug in all 3. And then I started configuring my games and heading out on track to see the results. In iRacing, I went ahead and left my graphics set to maximum just to see how it would do. And much to my amazement, the Python worked well, very well. Actually, it cranked out 168 to 230 frames per second. More than enough for my gaming needs. In Assetto Corsa, I also ran in triple screens with maximum graphics, and even at the race start, I never saw a number below 65, and it spiked up to about 80. That is good, but I did try it on medium level graphics and got 83 to 120 frames per second. Project Cars was a little more strenuous on the machine in triples, but with their solar flare and vapor effects times 3 monitors, that was to be expected. Even at full graphics, maxed out with a full grid of cars, I got 45 to 80 frames per second. I'm fine with 80, but at 45, there is no room for error. I then switched to medium level and gained a bunch, and saw frames from 70 to 100. R Factor was a very similar experience as well. At full graphics running in triples, I got 70 to 100 frames per second, and then went and lowered my settings once again to medium and gained a bit to 78 to 120 frames on some tracks and 100 to 150 on others. And then finally, to finish things off on my testing, I went back to F1 2016. At ultra graphics and running triples, it did struggle a bit. I only got about 38 to 48 frames per second, which is really flirting with too low. I moved the settings down to medium level and saw 68 to 80 frames per second, even in triples. By the end of my testing, I was number 1 exhausted. That was a lot of scenarios to put this thing through, a lot of testing, a lot of benchmarking, a lot of recording of the footage just to test this thing, give it a fair shakedown. But now that we've seen how it did on track, you've learned all the specs, you've heard my stories and nightmares of building my own computers, let's break it down with the good, the not so good, and the bottom line. Starting off with the good, and that is, this is built and sourced out of top-end parts. Great performance for a reasonable price. Built for gaming. Very clean wiring inside. Good airflow. 12 USBs. Front panel USB and audio jacks for easy access. Nice looking case. Actually comes with a Blu-ray player. Pride of workmanship. By gamers, for gamers. No bloatware. Eliminates doubt. After this, you know exactly the frame rates that you get in most of the sims out there. Great customer support. 3-year warranty. Money back guarantee. Expandable and upgradable. And it's very quiet, nearly silent. And now on to the not so good. Starting off with, it is a little bit expensive. I'm going to cover that more in the bottom line. So next up would be that you do have to open the front cover in order to turn on this computer and access the extra USBs and audio jacks. Not really a big deal, but a factor for some. It has no optical audio out. So if you have optical sound systems or headphones, it's not going to work. And lastly, in order to do it in triple screens, I did need to use the DVI, an HDMI, and a DisplayPort. Not a big deal, but I did have to go to the store to get a couple of those cables. I didn't happen to have them lying around. So let's move on to the bottom line. I told you the story about how I always dreamed of getting an Alienware, a computer built by gamers, for gamers, but you heard the whole story there. Viper Gaming Systems is a company built in the same image of Alienware back in the day, by sourcing the right parts to get the high-end results that you want. So like I said, I built a lot of computers in my day, and some of them went well, and some of them not so well. I can think of a case where I helped John Hill build a computer recently. We ran into problems with dead on arrival parts. We had terrible problems trying to get all of the installation of the software, all the drivers loaded without problems, and it ended up taking a couple of weeks, needing outside assistance, and causing a lot of frustration. In the case of buying a computer like this, you have to compare it to what would it be like if I bought all the parts from, say, Newegg and just built it myself. Well, I added up all the parts of something very similar to this build, and it ended up costing a little bit over $1,000. So for that $300 difference, you're potentially saving yourself a whole lot of headaches. Now on top of that, with a computer like this, you're getting something ready to run. You already know the numbers it's going to perform at, and you can depend on that. Now on top of that, if anything did go wrong, you have someone else to turn to. They have their phone number, their email, they even have online chat at Viper Gaming Systems for you to contact them. Now before I even tested this computer, I had written this i3 based computer off as a triple screen solution. I knew it would be a good single screen solution for people out there, but after my testing, it performed really well. But for a lot of people upgrading, buying 3 screens on top of a computer can be very daunting. But this will start off on a single screen on the one you're using for gaming and be able to be upgraded with just the monitors and that extra plug or two to be able to plug it in and be running in triple screens. Previously to testing this computer, I'd actually been using about a 5-year-old i7 chipset with a 690 video card. Head to head, this one blew it away in every category. I can't believe a low-end i3 can blow away my top-tier i7, but I guess that shows you what 5 years of technology will do for you. Now, in addition to all my race testing, I also did other things like fraps, recording game footage, or even extensive video editing, like editing this very show. And in all of those tests as well, it outperformed my i7. Now, in honor of this review, Viper Gaming Systems is offering a special offer to our viewers, a 10% discount on their computers. They made a special code, and to use this code, just enter Simpit-Python-10 in the discount code area of your shopping cart. And in the case of the Python build, that means $130 in savings, which actually narrows that $300 difference between building your own and this one down to just $170. You'll find a banner for Viper Gaming Systems on our website, and it will take you directly to them. So I hope you've enjoyed this review, and I hope this computer represents itself as a good option for console gamers out there looking to upgrade to the PC sim racing world, or for those out there looking to upgrade their PC computers but on a strict budget. This is the Simpit. I'm Sean Cole, and I'll see you on the track.